Hey guys, it's Matt. In the middle of one of the most horrific situations of all time. Not in terms of war or bloodbath, just in terms of it is horrific because we don't recognize our fellow man, the people or anybody we count on as being a human being. It's more like a scene from the movie Invasion of the Body Snatchers. This, in a way, is more horrific and more challenging and more mental taxing on us, mentally taxing, than if, you know, the Germans were invading. It is what is going on now is just it's just beyond words. I'm at a loss for words. To me, it's mind-boggling. It's scary. It's fascinating. It's horrific, and we're just gonna not study the screen and try to figure it out one piece at a time. Well, yes, we will, but always we're gonna loop the knowledge gained back to what we need to do for ourselves. That missing step that most of the truth community doesn't go into. And look who's back. So, yeah, it's horrific, whatever, but gotta have a little fun with it, gotta have a few laughs. If not, you go in the mouth of madness with what's going on out our window. Become that scene in the mouth of madness with the creepy Sam Neill in the padded room, painting the runes all over his face. So it was the contract negotiations were tough. He went off. I think I wrote he went off to Tijuana. He had a knife fight with Rosie, the knife fighter from Point Break, the movie, the original Point Break with Keanu Reeves, and survived that. And he just was a holdout. He was worse on set or in terms of coming back to work than Val Kilmer. And Val Kilmer's supposed to be one of the most arrogant assholes to work with of all time. Not that I have experience in that sort of thing, just from what I. The Island of Dr. Moreau, one of the biggest disasters all around of all time. And guys, I want to, before we get into this video is going to be about who is Andy. All right, not as an individual. Andy, what does Andy represent in our studies here? Andy represents the masses. And the masses, what we always believe that person down the cul-de-sac, person that serves us our breakfast at the local diner, we always believe them to be the same, for the most part, the same as us. It's nothing new in this truth community to throw around terms like that person could be an NPC, a non-player character, an organic portal, something that doesn't carry a soul or a connection to spirit. But until this thing happened, we didn't really, maybe we didn't really believe it. We didn't believe they were that much different than us. But now we see something, people, all men are created equal from the Declaration of Independence. That's simply not accurate. It's probably intentionally there to mislead. So, what is Andy? The masses, right? And will we be able to figure it out exactly? No. But that's the truth pursuit, to try to figure it out exactly. The idea is to get an idea of what is going on here and how we can then use it in our relationships with Andy and use it in our own lives. Andy's going to sit here for a few minutes. Now, Andy being different from us has never been more apparent than during this time. Yes, Andy didn't want to look at 9/11, and Andy didn't want to examine how 19 guys with box cutters couldn't have done all that and achieved thousands of times over what the Soviet Union did in spending hundreds of billions of dollars in 50 years of Cold War. They achieved it in one morning. All that Soviet Union had to do was go venture out into parts of Afghanistan and hire guys to take the flights. That's all they had to do. Why did they create the Red October? It's $1 billion of Soviet high-tech equipment. They're going to want it back, Dr. Ryan. Well, you shouldn't. You didn't have to. Well, you didn't have to build it in the first place. They didn't have to build it in the first place. If they would have just hired guys with box cutters, well, what would that have cost? Another $1 billion, Mr. Powers? No, just 10 camels per family could have got it done. I mean, why we see things so clearly, and the people around us, Andy can't, it was always kind of it was frustrating to us through 9/11 and all these ridiculous bang events. The parents coming out laughing, parents getting tattoos the next morning, and it was always frustrating to us, but not like it is now in terms of why So we put these big ass theories on the table for Matt's lack of understanding why Andy just can't see that what is going on now is just unfathomable if you are a human being born as an American. Our whole lives through grades 1 through 12, we're taught 1 through 12. Everything's 12. We're taught, wonder why that is, right? We're taught how we have rights, and this Bill of Rights, and they'll actually quote the preamble of the Bill of Rights before the Super Bowl. So we see clearly that this is just none of this exists. I mean, you can't. There's no. There's no law or anything that holds up with what they taught us. You can force somebody to do anything medically, to wear a mask, or it's just not. None of it has a legal basis. So the entire. Australia doesn't have the constitution we have, but I assure you they have some documents that talk about or vaguely mention the rights of the individual. I'm sure there's nothing there as well as anywhere else that would allow them to be locked away in Melbourne. What's the difference? We have the American Constitution. We're going to be locked away again. I'll do predictions in another time, maybe later this week or Friday or Saturday. Friday or Saturday, potentially. Make sure you get the 6-pack. Drink our sorrows away. The big prediction video. It's not as dire. It's not good, but it's not dire as you would think, guys. This they'll hit the second round of the plan is coming. The Australian test case is taking place right now for what they will attempt to do. The AI knows America's a lot bigger, a lot more people willing to push back. More guns? Oh, yeah, about 500 million more guns. So the AI is using Australia as a nice test case to make sure they really understand how the Andy human being will react. And is the American Andy the same as the Australian Andy? Well, there's a lot of similarities in the downloaded individual, in the people that are much different from us. But the most important part of this presentation is not figuring out exactly what Andy is, but how we can apply that, to ourselves. And when I wrote the book, I'm so glad that I really started writing it very quickly for us, a logging of the fraud for us, the back end having us understand certain things. Of course, when I started writing it, I had this list in this notebook, like all these pieces of paper of all the impossible frauds and all the things that they pulled off and all the things that just made no sense about the lack of 500 videos about what happened to the top of the South Towers. And I figured there's such a endless list of fraud. Excuse me, guys. Allergies this fall have been tough. I don't think it's just the cats. I was going to say there's so much fraud and so many things that just didn't add up that I had this overwhelming breadth of evidence I'd be able to show anybody, and they would eventually come out the other side, and just like we do, and say, you just showed me 300 things in a row that couldn't possibly happen. And so, Matt, I'm just jumping on board with you. This can't be real. Well, we know they'll never come around. They're just not capable of it. They're not capable of it. So I'm glad I ended up writing it more for us. It is written though in a way that the book I read called A Reality Few Can See, I've changed over to The Conspiracy Theorists Are Right. I don't love that name either. I'll probably change it again. It's going to push 1,000 pages soon in PDF because the cataloging of the fraud is never ending, because the fraud is never ending. But I'm glad I wrote it a little bit soft in the beginning because it can be used there's people that even now a few people will come into truth. Out of the millions of spouses that just run their scripts, don't want to listen to anything you have to say, won't acknowledge the strangeness. There's a few that'll come into truth, not many anymore. I think it's becoming less and less and less. The big window, there's no doubt about it, was 2010 to 2018. Whoever came into the truth started looking at certain things as being a complete fake presentation. During that time, millions of us popped up around the world, and maybe, the old days in 20, yeah, probably the heyday of Russian vids was 2014, 2015, just watching videos about the fake events. There might have been 10,000 people a day coming into what we call truth, and now it's like 10 a day. I think it's a trickle. I think that window is kind of closed, but that's just me. There could be another event or something that triggers it again. Um, they do business by their stars and their constellations, and right now I don't understand it like Levette would or anything, but right now they're allowed per how they interpret their stars and their constellations, and they're serious, and you cannot be serious, and they have the permission per their stars and their constellations to go pedal to metal on on the masses right now. And don't forget, it's not just about, oh well, we're immune. Yeah, we are to a degree, but we're played and used and abused more than any other group. Never. Always think, what do they want, not just from that air masses. What do they what do they want from the truth community? What are they trying to get out of the truth community? So what is Andy representing? I don't know, 6 billion people on Earth. Well, Matt, don't you know the population numbers are over? I know. I'm aware of all that stuff. I'm not. Every once in a while in a presentation, I probably will say something that the mainstream presents just to get the main point of the presentation and the concept out. So, um, what are they? Well, let's just start with the absolute basics. What am I? Yeah, we're going to talk about you, Andy. What the hell are you? Bunch of creepy f's running around that won't listen to us. Well, we'll start with the basics. Um, Dolores Cannon was the first one, big time, to propose the NPC concept. Matt, it was around 10 years before. Okay, fine. I'm sure some people were, I'm saying major league, doing presentation after presentation, saying Dolores Cannon, she's past life regression. Her acolytes and followers and students um, take people into basically a hypnosis session, and they remember past lives. And the ones that have been trained in the Dolores Cannon methods are very successful in doing it. The amount of people they come and remember past lives is a lot. So I don't know exactly how that works. I have no experience in that, but the point is, let's just stay with the point of this presentation. She was the first one to say, you go to an airport and it's packed. Most of those people there, they're not real. They're not real. No, they're not real at all. They're background people, but there's a lot of ways even to interpret that first level, the NPC level. Also, you could call it organic portal. There's a lot of ways to interpret that. Is it background people, literally creations like a video game of a matrix, or excuse me, are things much more real and physical? And most people coming into truth that have different areas of expertise would agree that something needs to animate the body. Okay, this is, you get into the body, the avatar, which in a way is you, but in a way is not you at all. Because you run up the driveway, you have no idea how the muscles are firing. You have no idea how the body chooses to, when it needs to sweat glands. It all happens ways you as you have no idea. So is it you or is it not you? But something needs to animate the avatar, unless it's a complete video game. Okay, that is, I'm never going to take Matrix off the table. I've seen too many things that just are what I'm going to call reality breakdowns. I could talk for hours about absolute reality breakdowns, that things that just couldn't happen. The eclipse by itself is a reality breakdown. So I'm not going to take Matrix off the table, but if it's anything else but Matrix, and there's a degree of anything we know of as physical, no matter what you believe about collapsing the wave function or not, then the smartest people all agree that something needs to animate the avatar. This is where you get into the concept of soul. So soul, let's just, again, the smartest people here agree soul is a lower level thing. Soul, would animate the avatar. We have a soul as real people coming into truth, and they would say Andy has a soul. Okay, but but what animates the soul is different. The smartest people would say. And what do I keep saying that? Who would say that? I don't know exactly. I have certain individuals, certain philosophies. I'm a disseminator of information at this point. I've have my nose to it, my ear to it for 10 years, and I can communicate it out where in a way that kind of makes sense. Where exactly all this is coming from, I would even have a hard time explaining because I've heard it in so many different places over the years. But we have a soul, Andy has a soul. Soul needs to be animated. The not the I mean the body, the avatar needs to have a spark and animation. But the source of that soul is different. So the best way to again an amalgamation of everything I've heard, and I have a good tuning fork, a good inner knowing. This makes absolute sense. This doesn't hold water. We have you've heard me say, a connection to something outside of here, a connection to what's called spirit. Spirit is the greater thing over soul, the way I understand it. So Andy has no connection to, if Andy is an NPC person, could be your best friend, could be your mother. There's no, just because if I'm real, does that mean that my mother and father have to be real? Absolutely not. In my opinion, my experience, um, people I've talked to in person, people I've emailed back, people that have told me they remember their soul coming into their body at a young age, remember the experience, every bit of it. So, the person listening to this knows who I'm talking about. And that's been confirmed in different degrees by others. So Andy has a soul, but a soul is confined to third dimension, and some people would say fourth dimension, whatever that is. So we have a soul that animates, but there's a spiritual connection that's outside of here, whatever this thing is, outside of here. And it's something most people agree that they haven't completely Horcrux us here, completely trapped us, a Saturn moon matrix, prison planet. No, we're connected to something. The war that's going on is, will we use this lifetime to be drawn towards it, to strengthen the Rainbow bridge from Thor and Odin, Norse myth, not the Castro district, strengthen the Rainbow Bridge, or will we? The reality just wants us to cut it, to take a jackhammer out and cut it off constantly, and the only tie is probably trying to get us to tie into where Andy is tied into. She's just rooted to this place, his soul attachment, what he thinks is important in life. It wants us to constantly create our own chains and ties to this place. So if you follow that line of thought, it seems like one of the main goals of reality is to turn us into Andy. Perhaps. Maybe it's that simple. Cut off spiritual tie, we then become Andy, who he can only tell you about all the awards and merits that this reality has given him, like his second speedboat. Second speedboat! You got a second speedboat? Good job, buddy. Um, his awards at work, his awards in his gigantic, massive Joe Ovaltine church, his sexual pursuits and escapades, whatever. So that's all that it seems to want us to turn us into. So Andy has a soul too, but some people would say that it's called the animating spirit is something like the natural spirit, or similar to the natural, not spirit. I'm getting the terminology wrong, but whatever incarnates animals potentially. Excuse me. I can remember, but Hillary Clinton can't. I do have a mute button here, Matt, which I just seem to never understand. I think my fear is I hit it, I won't remember to turn it back on. Excuse me. Sorry. I don't think it's just the cats. I just This allergy season in the fall can be real, and I don't really have too many bad allergies, but it's been tough 2 weeks. Although I do have the two new cats I got from the nursing home are long hairs, and And I used to be highly allergic to cats. That's another story, how that just disappeared. Almost like it was meant to be. I was highly allergic, would wheeze, but it seems to be gone. So, um, we both have souls, but the root of it comes from somewhere else. All right. So, when we're one of the main points of this video, and we should just get into it, is I mean, we what's the main question posed? He just can't see anything that we see, whether it be our spouse, it could be a father, a mother, a best friend. I struggle with, remember that person I call Tony, not Tony who gives me great information about how the minions work here and all, but my friend Tony, who I was best friend in his wedding. Again, guys, I've told you, you come into a party, he becomes kind of the life of the party. Not a clown, he's very smart, intelligent. Every job he's ever done, high degree of intelligence at Penn State. I would always study hard, and he kind of would waltz in and take the test and do pretty much as well as I would do. He didn't do much of anything, but I did really well because I was devoted to it. But it would piss me off. I would get an A because I put 5 hours into the studying. He'd waltz in and get a B plus. I mean, basically just read a few pages, a few hours before, whatever. Maybe not that lax, but more like that. So this guy is no dummy, and excuse me. It's not. It has nothing to do with intelligence. Why these people can't see? They're doctors, lawyers, and we get into the old truth or explanations. Matt, it's the mind control. How it's the 5G and the mind control, and yeah, it is mind control. Why they can't see what we can see, but and it is, remember I've talked about taking the download, but really what it gets down to is what type of person can be mind controlled or is susceptible to the download. Somebody that's not like you, somebody that's just completely potentially a different thing. I'm sorry if that could be, my father or somebody's brother or somebody's wife or husband. But guys, there's almost no other way to explain how people just can't see the stuff. To us, it's just so basic. It's so obvious to us that we have dropped these veils. And we've always kind of talked about it as, well, Andy has all these veils, and if Andy were able to drop them all, then Andy would see what we see. And it might, we'd like to think that, guys, but again, back to what Dolores Cannon said, and a lot of smart people say now, that you go into an airport, one of these things is not like the other, or all men are created equal. Those probably meant to mislead. There's a lot of different type of people, and most of the whatever they are, maybe they once had a connection to something outside of here, like we do, and they, over their choices in a lifetime or many lifetimes, cut it off. So then they become a completely downloaded individual. We'll never know. Okay, but the main point is, let's just go to step 3 in the 3 steps. How do we use that for ourselves? First off, we finally understand, and God, I know nobody should yell at me for making the People Know Nothing series, which I'll throw one or two in from time to time. First thing we should understand about these people is they will never see it. Will never see it. And why should we, I sent an email to someone yesterday. We were going back and forth on this. And it kind of came to me, maybe this is kind of mean and we shouldn't do this, but I thought, well, you have a pet, right? Somebody might have a dog, and they love that dog, of course. Jeff and Etta, of course, love that dog more than most people. Most people you ever will love in your life, and that's people can have that relationship even with the cats. I think it's more common with a dog because there's more personality. Although my Belle, who's now gone, was the same type of thing. But I'm not. When Belle was here, I'm never going to go scream at her or try to get in her face about not seeing 9/11. But I still can love Belle and Bell gives me certain things. And guys, it's really bad, but this is the way we have to see uh, the quote loved ones around us, or even friends. I'm not there yet with Tony and some of these. I mean, I'm completely frustrated because it's with an animal. He goes, well, it's an animal. It's Matt. It's not supposed to see. We have no expectations. And this person you talk about, he, could waltz in and do no homework and basically get the same grade that you got, and this and that. And, shouldn't we expect more? But why? Why should we expect more? We know now they can't see it. They never will see it. They're susceptible to being a downloaded individual. We don't How does the download work? How does the 5G amplify it? Is that a red herring? Is it potentially pointing at the screen is worthless anymore? Exactly, spending my life researching the exact role of 5G and how that facilitates the download, or it's just not, it's pointless anymore. I will look at part one, or I will look at the screen only in as much as it immediately tells me a little bit about step two. What does that say about the nature of reality itself? And then immediately moves me on to step three. Well, once I understand a little bit about reality, what does that tell me about who I am? How much energy I possess, or power I possess, or why do they want to mislead me and trick me all the time if I don't have a real tie to something called higher self or spiritual self? So I will not look at the screen anymore unless it immediately leads me to step two and step three. So as an example, we'll get back to Andy in a second. Um, the my favorite exercise that we won't stray because it's a 20-minute exercise about there should be minimum 350 to 500 videos of something happening to the top of the South Tower. Whether you think planes, no planes, of course I believe no plane, not of course, but just because more and more years go by, the no planes becomes almost obvious to me. Now, how that could have been pulled off is not human. It's not the regular minions that we know, or that would be like you, that have to eat and sit down and do whatever at night, and those types of, it's not, there's no way normal people could have pulled that off. This is not possible. It's not human. But nevertheless, we're talking about there should be 350 to 500 videos of something happening to the South Tower, whether it was a plane or not. If there was no plane, then there should be hundreds of people that pop up years later that said, I had a video of it, there's nothing, it just blew up, there's nothing that came in at all, look. And I understand, who are they going to take the video to? They're going to take it to Anderson Cooper, he's going to show it, but something would have squeaked out somewhere. The Google bot, 2006, 2007, 2008, or whatever, was not that sophisticated, where if you load a 9/11 video, it's going to immediately know it is and cut it off. Maybe today, but I don't believe it. Something would have squeaked out. And they've kind of like, somehow it's like The Adjustment Bureau, the movie with Matt Damon, who always plays himself. He don't play no characters. He plays Matt Damon. Sometimes thin, sometimes a fat Matt Damon, like a fat Lawrence Fishburne. Or it's a CGI'd Matt Damon. Matt Damon sitting there on Mars by himself, talking to himself the first hour of the movie, like, I can't wait for Matt Damon to make another recording, Captain Picard log entry to himself. Isn't this wonderful? He's sitting there with his shirt kind of open and his chest muscles. CGI Central. Excuse me, CGI Central. That wasn't him. He took the easy way out. He says, you want me to go on an 8-week Brad Pitt steroid regimen with hard training like he did before the movie Troy? Can't you just CGI my chest and make it look good? Yeah, we can do that. Go out to Waffle House. Enjoy yourself, Matt. Excuse me. Anyway, Hillary Clinton can't remember to do that. People believe it's real. So the point is about the top of the South Tower. It's worth looking at. It is worth looking at, because you say, well, wait a second. What does that tell you about reality itself? There's no way normal people could have pulled that off, clamped down reality with an adjustment bureau where all the videotapes. And guys, again, I'd love to, I'd do it some other time. Anybody struggling, when the first tower was hit or whatever, there would have been tens of thousands of people with the camera pointed up in that general direction. Tens of thousands, not 500 or 800. Tens of thousands would have been pointed. There was 15 minutes for people to get their video. Tens of thousands. So 350 to 500 should be conservative. We should have close to 1,000. And there's four that look decent. Total about 12 to 14 total, which of course is all CGI. But this is a reality breakdown. There's no way regular people could pull that off. Nope. Sorry. I've looked at it too closely over too many years. It's not human. That's the best way to put it. Not human. That's from Star Trek, that big beast-like monster. Can you say puny human? Is that from Predator? No, whatever. The guy in Star Trek I'm thinking of looks like the Predator. Maybe that's where they got it from. But I'm so nervous or something, or so on edge. I just snapped off one of Andy's buttons. It's creepy. Andy, you sit over here, buddy. I'm gonna end up ripping your head off, and the stuffing will come out soon. It's a reality breakdown, which immediately we can use it in step two and say, what does that tell us about reality itself? That couldn't be pulled off. There's things going on here beyond our comprehension. There's things that constantly want to manipulate us into believing a certain thing. So then we can go on to step three and say, I can understand being, the reality being a trick, a lie, whatever, but to go to the lengths of 9/11 to pull it off, to manipulate us, it tells me I'm a pretty powerful individual. They didn't just go to the lengths of 9/11 to facilitate Lockheed Martin and Raytheon contracts so they could wage their war. Of course, that was part of it. But that was the whole people getting rich by more military contracts, and United Technologies will get paid for the next 10 years. That was tertiary. That's not the reason. You want to, okay, when you get more primary and secondary reasons, so more war leads to more of their blood sacrifice, and yeah, they like that too, but it was overall, to me, it was a ritual to basically almost move reality itself off its foundation and kind of set up what's going on now. But we'll do that speculation some other time. So why, if you don't yell at your dog to wake up to 9/11, or why shouldn't we be treating the people in the Andes around us the same way? I mean, why shouldn't we? If we truly believe that they don't have the same type of spirit or animating behind that connection to animating soul, I meant connection to spirit, then we should see them in a completely different way if we want to maintain and continue to have a relationship with them. And it's terrible. And I don't know why. Maybe it's not terrible, but why not? Why should it be any different than your dog? Because I assure you, a lot of people listening to this might say, I love this. I love my dog more than most or all of my relatives. A lot of people would say that. So treat your relatives like your dog. Treat them as you would treat them just like you would treat what's that Peckerwood boy works down with the glass? Jerry. That's right, Jerry. You treat him just like you would Jerry. Yeah, treat your relatives just like you would Andy or your dog. And then this is a pretty bad solution, guys. But if you truly believe they're just not capable of seeing anything, and they're downloaded individuals, are we going to get on them? And my mother last night was talking about certain things, and it was very relevant. And I brought up, well, in Australia, in Melbourne, they're like locked away with no rights, and they're not allowed to leave their homes more than an hour a day to get food. And I was trying to again press that upon her, but I know what she did is just make an excuse of some kind. So let's get into the main traits of an Andy. Of course, they just can't see anything we see, but the main trait of an Andy, which I'll call a downloaded individual, somehow the Midian assholes here, on behalf of the reality itself, or behalf of whatever what you want to call stands behind the screen, Christians would say Satan or whatever. They found a way to, in methods and techniques that we don't understand, to completely download and manipulate the masses to a degree that we can't fathom before. This revealed so much what's going on now, and we know a downloaded individual because they'll run the same scripts over and over again. And you don't need, once they run a few scripts, you know who you're dealing with. Once you know you're dealing with an Andy, then there's no point in continuing to press anything upon them or talk about truth. So we could just try it right now with Andy. Andy. You haven't really said anything. Under new contract. You're getting paid, buddy. Yeah, you're styling and profiling. You're getting paid a lot to do this. So participate, son of a bitch. Andy, how do you explain the 50,000 cases and I don't know 50,000 deaths in New York? I don't keep track of it, whatever. But how do you explain through June 1st 4 deaths in Hong Kong?
They know how to handle it over there.
They know how to handle it. What does that mean? Weren't they? Weren't the Hong Kong trains and subways and going back and forth just when nobody even knew there was anything in December of 2019? Weren't they just as crowded as always and 10,000 a day going to Wuhan? Well, they weren't. See, even if they did know how to handle it, Andy, there was nothing that there was nobody pointed at any illness to handle. There was nothing to handle. There's the 4 week period in December or through mid-November through December where nobody in China would have known about it. It would have spread in these crowded conditions, right? Now they're not capable. Remember the other parts of Andy. Andy's not capable of saying, "That's an interesting point. I'll think about it." They're not. You're not capable of saying that. It's always another script. Or if they blue screen glitch, he'll just turn and walk away. He can't say, like I just yelled at my friend Tony yesterday via email. I just said to him, I said, "You're just not capable of ever saying, Matt, that's actually a good point. But I'm not going to, I'm not going to agree with you, but they're not capable of even that. They can never give an inch. They can never give a millimeter." So, the main script of all time, though, the point of this part, the main script of all time for these people, if they give you this, you basically know what you're dealing with. The main script of all time is, some of these people are polite, whatever they are. They're polite. They'll listen. They'll watch even some videos, and they'll all come back to the same thing, whether it be a fake event or space, what's going on now, 9/11. They'll come back with this. In the end of the day, what difference does it make? Maybe that's why Hillary put that forth. That was a prelude. They say, I, Ken just said it to me the other day. I still got to wake up in the morning and pay the bills. Pam, all the time. Yeah, I kind of see that Mandela effect, but in the end, I still got to get up and put food on the table. It doesn't affect my life. They always go into the script of, well, okay, I had somebody with 9/11 say, I use the brick example. Well, if I stack up 10, sometimes you just kind of put them in a box and then you blue screen them, but they'll still run their scripts and find a way out of the blue screen. They'll reboot themselves. If you can blue screen them, but they quickly reboot or they'll walk away, and then the reboot happens as they walk away, and you come back like you never made any gains or any strides at all with them at all. So I like stacked up 9 bricks and said, well, Tower 1, if you just remove the 9th brick and then you just drop the 10th brick down onto the 8th, well, what happens to the 8 bricks? Nothing. It's like that scene in Jarhead. What happens when you get past the 9th level of Metroid? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. Can I warm up your nuts, sir? I like Jarhead. It's got some weird ass scenes, but I like Jarhead. So I blue screened the person. I said, well, yeah, I can see how if you just see the collapse start real high up on North Tower. There's not enough up top to push down, the equivalent of dropping a few packs of marshmallows. There's not enough to push down through the whole thing. You just pull out the 9th brick, drop the 10th on the 8th, and nothing happens. Person saw that. and then just was like, then they blue screen, and the main script is, well, okay, but what does that mean? What am I supposed to do? I got to go to work tomorrow, and it's just a way of sloughing it off. And I think a real maybe it's not an NPC, an organic portal. Maybe it's there are other explanations for what Andy is. New souls. People talk about new souls, old souls. You know, they just need more experiences. Not in this lifetime, other lifetimes, if that's the case. Thousands potentially more. Old souls versus new souls. They're just not ready for whatever that means. They just won't. Oh, I gotta get. Even if you're right, what am I supposed to do? Go down and fight it? Go load up my pellet gun, and it's just a way of. There's just a way of sloughing it off when you hear that, guys, because a real individual, a real soul, real spirit, or old soul, someone that kind of wants this to be their last go around, their last rodeo, wants to. Excuse me. Wants to connect out of here or get out of here upon death, says, whoa, wait, they immediately kind of go to step two. Well, yeah, that really happened. How could that have happened? What kind of entities could have pulled that off? But it'll take them a long time to get to step three. What does that mean about myself? That's why 99 point whatever, a very high number, percent of the truth community, the videos that have ever been made since 2008, they never go off step one. It's just, this is a fraud and this is fake. And okay, there's merit to that, but they never go on to step two. What does that say about reality itself? Step three, what does that tell me about myself? Never. And you can't say 99.9 because that's dropping, then that would be dropping. That's dropping a 666. But what about all the good information he's provided over the last 10 years? He drops one number backwards, you think he's dropping a number and you're going to abandon the channel? Yeah, if he drops one number, or if he says 133, it doesn't matter all the good information he gave. It's just like Bill Clinton. He says, well, it depends on what the word, or your definition of the word is. That's an ISIS. When you say is, you're dropping an ISIS. Well, he probably, well, I'm serious, he was dropping an ISIS. But if a regular person, your butcher, your baker, your candlestick maker says that, he ain't dropping no ISIS. Just like I ain't dropping no 666. We're kind of conditioned to say 99.9, whatever. But the truth channels, okay, this is fake. Okay? That's why the system is very, very tolerant, or has been very tolerant, of these pursuits of graduated animal farms. There's somebody over here in this farm saying this is fake, that's fake, this is fake, that's fake. Okay, well, that's wonderful. They're never going to be able to convince the Andes, and it's still, they're not even using it to find out what does that mean about themselves. Matt, what does a fake bang event have to do with myself? A lot, a lot. And it's not just that. It's again, when you see the whole reality, the lengths that it goes to, it's to beyond that. I was going to say the lengths it goes to lie, cheat, manipulate, deceive, get you to walk down Robert Frost's road more traveled, to do everything you shouldn't do. It goes out of its way, but it's beyond that. It's not like it just works really hard to screw you over spiritually and that tells you about yourself. It's the whole reality has to do that. It's the mechanism that's here. It's not like it does it on the side or as a nice hobby that it tries to sell on Etsy. The whole mechanism that is in place here is to, it seems like, to turn you into this. It reminds me of the scene in The Matrix, to turn a human being into a battery. Yeah, basically the same thing to a degree. That wasn't a thin Lawrence Fishburne. That wasn't a fat Lawrence Fishburne. That was like an in between Lawrence Fishburne. It wasn't yet Captain Miller or the real out of shape Lawrence Fishburne from Biker Boys. I like Biker Boys, but oh boy, how long have I been talking? Well, I restarted recording again, so it only says 3 minutes. So, guys, just to wrap this up, okay, there is no, once somebody shows you that this is what they are, there is no getting through to them, unfortunately. There's a lot of ways to determine who you're dealing with. The scripts they run and their ability to see or not see, things like that. But then you have just two choices. Either remove them from your life because you just can't handle it, which I've done to a lot of degree with a lot of my friends. And if I get back together with them, if we could ever get together again without a mask or whatever, they're going to be talking about their business and their promotions and they're wrangling, trying to do the rat race. That's a big part. They're all in the same industry. I got to sit through that. So, Matt, you're just jealous. Yeah, jealous. I left those jobs in 2002. I walked away. But if we can ever get together without a mask, I can either walk away and never be with them again, or I can literally just say this is I have to just I love my dogs or I love my cats. This is a different entity. It doesn't matter how real it is. They could tell better jokes than me at a party, or it's not the same as me for whatever reason. And is it if you want to take the positive versus the negative, doesn't mean they're doomed. You can say this is a new soul, and they have a lot of work to do, a lot of work to do. And fortunately, not just all. It's not going to happen in this lifetime. A lot of work to do in a few thousand more, or like the Buddhists would say, or somewhere else. But we're positioned, you know, potentially for the big win. We think we're on the path to potentially doing enough to getting out of here upon our death. Okay, I don't think if we were in the same position, there's consequences to this life. And I'm not saying traditional Christian heaven and hell. I have a different belief set. There's consequences. If we believe we were just in the same boat and knew that deep down, we wouldn't be going through all that we've gone through to try to learn something about. First, we study the reality, then we study ourselves. We wouldn't be going through all this if, everybody whether it be Andy or completely downloaded individual, at this person's death, that person's death, my death, we all get the same yellow Auschwitz star at death, and you're all gonna then go off and do the same It's a Small World ride over here. Well, I spent my whole life determined to looking at pursuing truth, justice, and the American way. Well, truth, yes. Justice to a degree. The American way, no. But not the American way as he would see it. We certainly like to bring back the American way the way we would like to see it. But we don't we don't aim too high anymore. Just getting together with a group of real human beings without a mask in somewhat of a close proximity. Um, you know, Aim high, Air Force. My aim is very low at this point. Just to be able to commune with real people again at some point in my life. That's the extent of my goals and aspirations. But we'll take it one step at a time. So choose to walk away from them or choose to see them as completely different and you know just find the five things where you enjoy each other's company. Or with some people, if old friendships, it would be just kind of past experiences. Is always, you always have that in common at least. So thanks for listening, guys. Oh, last thing, maybe I'll talk more about it in the future. I will post the name of the Black Mirror episode, which I forget now, at the end of this video. But I watched another Black Mirror Netflix series, Black Mirror. I'll post it at the end. It's about the soldier who is hunting these things called roaches. I think they're roaches, but he has a chip implant, so he sees them like The Walking Dead. He sees them as zombies, and once his chip implant goes down, he sees them. He's hunting regular humans, and it's just a truth drop. I mean, I don't even know what to call it. Truth drop. You have the brain implant that you have these roaches. It's just like our biggest fears on how we would be treated without the Action Jacksonation. I'll post the name of the episode. But again, guys, I always I immediately bring it back to step 2 and step 3. Like, so now we have another predictive element in another TV show or in another movie or in another cartoon or in another poem, and you get to the point where, well, what are we up to, Matt? Including the Peter Stuyvesant commercial. We're up to what? A few thousand of these predictive things showing us exactly how, starting with the big ones, Brave New World in 1984. What kind of reality could pull that off? If you want to just call it Donald Sutherland non-human, you could do that. But it's not human. It can't be called in. Director's meeting from at the Illuminati window saying what's truth needs to be delivered today, and it's kept quiet. If nothing ever leaks. It's just it's and I don't I it's why I always will say, fluid reality matrix. The the puppeteers have their hands on reality levers and buttons, and like the Adjustment Bureau, they're trying to adjust Matt Damon's life path, and if they make even a little bit of a mistake, they'll just walk through a Waffle House door in um, Birmingham, Alabama, and they'll emerge through the Waffle House in Atlanta, Georgia. They just have these magical techniques or a technology, and the Adjustment Bureau. I don't even know why the hell I was talking about that. The Adjustment Bureau. I don't know. It's a good way to end. Oh, the Black Mirror episode will be posted at the end, and it's very. I know what I was going to say. The reality pulls this stuff off like the Adjustment Bureau in ways that are beyond what we understand or comprehend. The laws of physics to be how anything could be pulled off by anything we consider to be a real world. So you see these things and you immediately have to get to step 2, which tells you a lot about yourself. Step 3. Thanks, guys.